Hey, this is Dawn. I am recording actually outside today. I'm not in my office. I decided it's a Sunday morning early. I'm out with my dog in the woods, and this is where I have most of my creative ideas. I love being out here thinking by myself. So I thought, why not record while I'm out here? Because that's truly authentic to who I am, and you get a much better picture of the Dawn and the life coach that is. So welcome along to our walk. Today I'm talking about the subject of our reactions and how we react to things. And is there a good reaction or a bad reaction? And when I say that, I'm not referring to them judgmentally. I'm not judging how you react to things at all. But the question that I always want to put to clients is, when they're talking about a circumstance, the question is this the best reaction for you? Is it the healthiest reaction to this circumstance? And is it helping you to achieve a better outcome? Or is your reaction to this hindering you, holding you back, keeping you stuck, making you angry, or bitter or negative, blaming, etc., and therefore holding you back and preventing you from progressing and achieving the outcome that you want to achieve? So the question that we all need to ask ourselves, and of course I'm in this as well, all of these podcasts, I'm still working on every subject that we cover, because no one ever gets there. No one ever finally reaches that destination of I'm done, I'm confident, I'm completely, totally sorted. We're all human, and our path deviates a lot. So one of the examples I'm going to give you in this podcast is one of my own very, very recently. So let me describe further what I'm talking about. So we all have events in our life, all of us. Some of these are great, they're positive, nice surprises, or they're good things that happen to us. And sometimes they're not so. Many times they're out of our control. They come to our lives left field with no warning. Thankfully, those ones. They may be a health issue or a loved one's health issue or a loss and bereavement or a big career shift for whatever reason. Could be redundancy or an issue at work that's out of our control because other people are involved. It could be a relationship breakdown. Or issues, potentially millions, from the huge extremes of natural disasters and horrendousness that goes with that, and being a victim of crime, through to just everyday events where your boss makes a decision that is firmly against your beliefs and really infuriates you for a few days and upsets you, etc. So we have these that come into our life a lot, and a lot of times it's not in our control. So if you imagine that as a big capital E for event on a flip chart, this is how I do it in workshops. But the E for the event alone doesn't influence the outcome in our life. It doesn't determine the outcome alone by itself, and the results that we get. It's also a combination of our reaction to that event. So if you see on that flip chart the big capital E for events plus a big capital R for our reaction equals the O, big capital O for outcome. So the events plus our reaction determines the outcome that we're going to get ultimately in our life. And the bit that's in our control totally is our reaction. Is it a healthy, functional, helpful reaction that will move you forward, that will get you the best out of the situation and the best outcome, the best result despite all? Or is it a reaction that's holding you back and keeping you stuck or making you negative, etc., toxic, let's say? So I'm not judging your reactions at all in terms of good or bad. It's an encouragement really to try and get you to think, is this the best way I could react? Because the point here of today's podcast is that we are totally in control of how we react. And what's more, it's not set in stone. So we could react to something and could have been, each and every one of us could have been reacting to something right now, long term, and realise this moment the penny could drop and we realise, oh my God, actually this is holding me back. Why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeding myself these thoughts, these words, and encouraging this reaction? And change it from this moment, because as you know from previous podcasts, what we say in our head affects how we feel, which affects our outcome. So here we're particularly talking about what we're saying in our head and reacting to something that's happened. And actually once we realise that, you can hear the aeroplane going overhead and the bird song, I think, then we can change that, because we can change what we're saying. And don't forget, we don't have to believe it. We just need to say different stuff to get a different outcome. So the example that I often give, and if you are one of my former clients or you've been to one of my workshops, you may have heard me say this example, but I do use it a lot because I think it is hugely profound and powerful for demonstrating exactly what I'm saying. So I won't apologise for the fact that I'm using the same example, but I have got another one after. So stick with me. I was once, a while ago, watching a documentary on our BBC here about our Crown prosecution services and our court systems and our legal systems, judicial system here in the UK. And this particular documentary had a lady on there who was talking to the camera about a circumstance that had happened to her. And she was describing that it was a normal day, a normal morning. Everything was just as it always is. And she was driving her 11-year-old son to school. The car, same route, same everything, nothing different on this particular day. However, coming the other way, they're on country roads, bendy country roads. Coming in the other direction, apparently, was a youngish man, she said, driving a Porsche car, quite fast, I suspect. She didn't say, but what she did say was that, and the driver took his eye off the road for a few seconds or so. And she didn't say why or what he was doing, but that was her description. Nonetheless, what happened was he therefore failed to take the bend and his car went straight instead of round the corner and ploughed straight into her and her car and killed her 11-year-old son outright. Now, as a mother of boys about that age, or not a great deal older, my youngest anyway, when I watched this, I can imagine nothing worse than that. And I absolutely believe that anybody watching that documentary would not have judged her reaction in any way. She could react in anger, bitterness. She could justifiably perhaps react that she wants him to suffer. She wants him to be punished for this. He's robbed her of her son, taken his life away, had his life ahead of him, only 11, and has destroyed her life, their life, the child's life, etc., etc. And you can imagine and understand that she may be very, very bitter, very, very upset, very stuck, and want him to suffer and be punished. However, she was saying to the camera that she asked to meet with the driver, and he agreed, and they spent half an hour or so together talking. She wanted to talk with him in private. And then she was saying to the camera that actually she did not want him to go to jail, as he was highly likely to in the autumn after his court case was heard. She didn't want him to suffer and be punished any further. And she actually said to the camera, I want my memory of my son to be a celebration of what a beautiful child he was and beautiful character and spirit and soul. I want to remember him with fond memories, happy memories. I don't want my memory of him to be of my anger and my hurt and all my negative emotions. I want to be able to remember him as he truly was, my beautiful, lovely little boy. And Gosh, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it. Anyway, so she was saying that she didn't want him to be punished and go to jail. Instead, she wanted him to get married in the autumn, as he was scheduled to be doing. And she wanted him to become a father. And she said to the camera, I want him to become a really good daddy and love his children and be a good example, etc., etc. Now, watching this, I was astounded at her forgiveness and her reaction, and hugely inspired by it, because if you think about it, that reaction is going to so help her in her future, and she's got to live with this. She's got to find a life of some sort. I don't know if she has other children to consider. It didn't say whether there was a daddy to the 11-year-old around, whether the husband was still present. There probably are grandparents, there may be siblings, there may be their 11-year-old school friends of him, so on and so on and so on. Lots of other people involved in this tragedy and this hurt. And I suspect that her reaction is incredibly healthy for her own future, and of course for her memory of her son, but also probably highly likely to be incredibly helpful and inspiring, and a great example to those around her that are also hurting, such as the grandparents, or perhaps brothers or sisters, or the father and the child's school friends, and so on and so on. And because if she's reacting in this way, it ultimately is probably having a knock-on effect, a positive knock-on effect to others, and inspiring them and their healthy reaction. But also, of course, there's the reaction to the driver, who undoubtedly will be suffering, whether he's in jail or not, for what he's done emotionally. But what an inspiration for him as well, if she's forgiven and able to see the positive and so on. So all in all, her reaction is likely to mean that all of those people can somehow find a way forward, come to terms with it, still live their life in a healthier way than perhaps if they had remained. And I'm not judging anybody that stays stuck in bereavement, because there is no right or wrong way of handling bereavement and grief. But I have never ever forgotten her, and she has been such an inspiration when I think about the fact that we can choose how we react. And we see this, don't we? We see this so much, people forgiving their son was stabbed in the streets of London or something, and they've forgiven, and so on and so on. But equally, if they don't, I wouldn't judge them either way. But for themselves and their future, and for the memory of their lost loved one, I do think it's probably a healthy reaction for them. However, that's an extreme example of what I'm trying to say here. A more everyday kind of example that we can all relate to. It just happened 2 days ago for me. This is very, very small and very trivial, but it does sum up that we can choose our reactions. Just very short, we had just flown back from holiday on Friday, and we had used the small airport, Bournemouth Airport, because it is small and easy, and there's just a small car park outside the front, and I had paid and booked in advance for parking. It had all gone very, very smoothly. We arrived home in Bournemouth on Friday, keen to just get in the car, throw our bags in, and drive through the rush hour traffic and get home. And when we get to the car, which is not far at all, it's a couple of minutes just outside the front of the terminal, there's a big yellow parking endorsement sticker stuck to my windscreen. So, I was surprised, shocked, a little bit hacked off, ripped it off the windscreen, opened it, and it claimed we were in the wrong area. We were in the purple area, which apparently was premium parking, and shouldn't have been in the purple area. We had booked for a different part, unbeknown to me. It hadn't been clear, I felt, on the signage, and I had, it seemed, parked in the wrong area and now had a fine. And please report to information in the terminal to pay your fine before the barrier will lift. So you're tired, you're hot and bothered, you want to get on the road and beat the traffic, etc. And so, hand on heart, I was grumpy. I flip-flop in my flip-flops, still in my holiday gear. It's raining in Bournemouth. It was hot when we left our holiday, so I'm cold and in flip-flops and inappropriately dressed. So off I wander back to the terminal, and it's actually quite empty. It's only a small little airport, and I find information, but the guy there in his uniform is on the phone to somebody. So I'm standing waiting for him. When a young lad, he was probably 17 or 18, in shorts the same, came up behind me to join the queue with the same parking ticket and a credit card in his hand, but with a ginormous smile. He was such a happy lad, his whole energy just oozed. Big smile, big white teeth. And so the terminal building's virtually empty, bar the three of us, really. The guy's still on the phone. So I turned to this lad with his big beaming, happy face, just so upbeat. And I said, "Oh gosh, you got one as well, did you?" And I was ready for a little bit of a grump and a moan of, you really need to make it clear in that car park, this is very naughty, and you're charging us, etc. I genuinely didn't know and wouldn't have parked there had I known. Didn't want an endorsement, etc. That was what was going through my head, because you forget, don't you, in emotional times about choosing your own reaction. But I turned to the lad and said, "Oh, you've got one too, have you?" And he beamed a big smile, so infectious, and said, "Yeah, I know. It's weird because we thought we'd parked in the right place. My brother is disabled," which instantly just struck me a chord. Gosh, and we had paid for disabled parking, and we parked in what we thought was the right place, but it seems that we parked apparently in the purple premium area, and we didn't know that, and we were supposed to be in the other disabled area, and we've got a £20 fine. But he said all of this with a huge smile on his face, and I said, "Oh, me too. Not the disabled, but I also parked in the purple premium parking area by mistake. Didn't know. It's not clear, is it?" And he said, "No. Still, it's only 20, isn't it? It doesn't matter." And he was just such a lovely, happy, freeing reaction with a massive smile on his face. And it actually stopped me in my tracks. And as I flip-flopped back to the car after I paid without a word of any trouble or any negativity, just paid up and thanked the guy politely, and walked back to the car, I thought, oh my word, there we are. That is a true example, an everyday example, a small one, of how actually we can choose how we react to these things. We can get grumpy, stroppy, say something, feel better for it, get it off our chest, or just smile and think, hey ho, it's only £20. In the scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It's not worth getting angry about, because actually the only person that suffers from that is me. The only person that feels that stomach churning frustration and anger is me. From taking his example of his big smile and me walking back to the car and the family with a big smile on my face, I felt so much better. It feels better. And you let it go and you move on, and you just think, it is what it is. It doesn't matter. Move on. It's one of those things. It won't happen again. I'll take better note next time. But what a lovely example, and a great reminder for me that big or small, we can choose how we react in anything. And sometimes there are better reactions than others for us. Better for our day. I probably would have stayed grumpy and frustrated all the way home, got cross with the traffic. I didn't, because, they had far worse on their plates. They had a disabled brother, and they could have got really frustrated about that. They'd done the right thing and booked the disabled parking, but made the same mistake as us. But he wasn't reacting like that at all, and I suspect he has learnt that from his family, and that they handle everything that they've got to handle with that kind of approach. And how much better will their lives be coping with a younger disabled person and the issues that must bring to them on a daily basis with that healthy attitude must be so much easier for them. So my lesson today, as you've gathered, is for the next week. Each day, and I'm still working on this every single day and will for the rest of my life, and I believe all of us would benefit from constantly thinking, is this a good reaction for me? Is there a better, healthier, more helpful, more freeing reaction? And if so, how can I shift my thoughts? How can I shift my approach to that and move on and let this go? So I hope that has helped to just be a reminder, a refresher, to think about the lady who lost her son, which is one extreme example, but hugely powerful, to just an everyday small example. And there's a lot in between where we can use this all the time. Shrug our shoulders, smile, hey ho. It is what it is, let it go, move on. Whatever phrase you need to say, let that become your mantra. And move on and let these things go. Or if they are large examples, large things that you're experiencing in life, and you may well be, then considering what can I shift in some of my mentality about this to get a better feeling towards it, or see some good in it, or shift the way I'm reacting to it to see a different frame, put a different frame on it, see it from a different angle, and so on and so forth. So good luck with your reactions. I'm now going up a hill, as you can hear. It's difficult talking and going uphill at the same time. Have a great week. Have a strong, confident week. If there is anything you would like me to cover in future podcasts, please drop me a line through the website, or visit the website for other things such as the free blog, or for an idea of the areas that I coach in. I do FaceTime coaching, Skype coaching, phone coaching, and if you're local to Hampshire, lots of face-to-face coaching, or workshops, or corporate work. So if there's anything there where you feel I could help, and a one-off coaching session on the phone or something like that could help you right now, then please visit the website and do not hesitate to drop me a line and we can take it forward. But have a browse through there anyway. www.milestone-coaching.co.uk. And if not, I look forward to talking to you again next week on next week's podcast, which I'm not sure what the topic will be, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all so much for giving me the time to listening to this podcast today rather than another podcast. I'm honoured and privileged, and I enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it's helpful. Bye for now.